What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kemple of Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. I'm super excited. I've got some very special guests. Please meet Rachel Belloti. She is a life and soul coach, and Jenell Riesner, who is a content creator and movement coach, both co-creators and co-hosts of the True North Collective podcast and experience. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining me today. Your podcast, your movement, really resonated with me, and that's why I wanted to have you on as guests, because I think what you're doing, what our message is very in line with each other. So I don't know who wants to go first, but can you please, Rachel, you're not muted, so we're gonna let Rachel go first.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So, life and soul coach, I've been doing that for almost 5 years now. Prior to that, I was in advertising, brand strategy, corporate brand strategy. And at a certain point in that trajectory, I realized that that was just not feeding my soul anymore and left. When I left, I went to Milwaukee, which is where I intersected with Jenell. And I really didn't know what I was going to do at that point. But I loved cycling, and there was a cycling crew and TRX studio in Milwaukee, and I
Cool.
wanted free classes. So I interviewed to be like whatever I could be there so I could have a free membership. And long story short, I ended up being the assistant studio manager, and our paths crossed, and we created the True North Collective. A little bit more about me, just for context. At that point, I also started a life coaching path as I was finding my own connection to who I was. I'm a cancer survivor from my teens.
Oh,
A
wow.
lot of other stuff happened during that time. I was recently diagnosed with PTSD, and so a lot of the wellness um, areas have been a part of me figuring out who I am. And then, of course, the True North Collective has been just like such a beautiful space for me to continue to explore that alongside others who are as well.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Janelle, do you want to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background?
Yeah, definitely. So my background has always been in the marketing business side. That's what I went to school for. I always say I'm a little bit now like trying to reform away from the business and tap into more of my creativity. But I've also always been connected in the fitness industry. So whether it be teaching fitness classes to running the studio that Rachel just mentioned that we met at, to working for tech companies related in the fitness, beauty, and wellness industry, I've always had my foot somewhere in the ground there. So that's really been a passion for me. And other than that, I feel like for me, I've just been focusing on how do I figure out how to feel safe while still being super adventurous and getting out there, and constantly just trying new things. So I just got back from a little trip around the United States, just living out of my car and
Oh,
in
wow.
different Airbnbs for about 7 months, and um, tapping into that nomadic life and just really letting go of the plan. And I basically live in like temporary Airbnbs now. And just when I feel like leaving, then I can go find a new place.
That's
And still
amazing.
cult-
I don't know
yeah,
if I
and
can do that. That's
it's
amazing.
it's been interesting. I'm tapping back into an old community right now that'll be here for 3 or 4 months, but that'll be the longest I've lived in one place in over a year. So that has been, yeah, just an interesting journey of getting comfortable in unfamiliar and potentially uncomfortable situations.
You've got to experience a lot of growth doing that. Just
Oh
like
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
personal growth.
The last year, both for Rachel and I know we kind of joke, and then add 2022 with the mix
Oh,
too.
yeah.
It's like I don't even looking at the person I was a year ago. It's just like, who is that? Like, yes, that person's a part of me, but the amount of growth has been probably more in the last year than most of my adult life.
Wow, that's very impressive. So you two like met and you hit it off and you've had, so I remember when I spoke to Janelle, like you told me about your guys' partnership and how you've kind of followed each other and you've just been partners now. How long have you guys been partners for?
We figured this out the other day. Is
Oh,
it five? Is it 5 years?
It's
Six
yeah.
years?
I think we've known each other for 6 years, and then been doing the podcast for just under 5. It'll be
Yeah.
5 at the end of this year.
Yeah.
so you guys complement each other really well. I mean, it's hard to find a partner, like let alone like a whole partner in life, but also like a business partner. I mean, you guys can, I mean, you consider this a business. I mean, you offer workshops and You're doing your podcast, which is, that it's awesome that you are able to connect on that level.
Yeah, to add to that, it's like I we've been a very like yin and yang to each other. Like when Janelle's ready to run, I'm like, let's just smell this flower a little bit longer, and then vice versa. And it's kind of like, I mean, it creates tension, but a
Sure.
beautiful tension. And where we are aligned is in our ability to just say like, fuck it, let's do it, let's try it. Like, who
Yeah.
cares? What's the worst thing that could happen? And then to have a partner through that of like, okay, our intention is literally to just impact one person, and
Yeah.
so we can stay grounded and not trying to get too ahead of ourselves, but inspiring each other to keep going and to not get too stuck in like, we're not ready or why us or
Yeah.
anything like that.
I love it. I love it. I need someone like that. Damn it, where are they? I'm just kidding. So when did you and how was the True North Collective born? Because I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So when Rachel came to work at the studio, there we talk about this. Okay, people are like, cycling studios, you must make so much money, they must be so glorious. That is a lie. I will save you money. Like, I always joke about like business consulting for fitness studios. Like when people come to you, it's just like, maybe just don't open one.
Yeah.
That's the advice. No, and honestly though, it's amazing. Like the community that you can do is amazing, and build, and it is really special. But what we were actually doing is we were cleaning bikes. We had a big charity event that we were going to do. And we're on the floor with sponges, kind of like you clean a car. We're ripping hair out of pedals because yes, there's a lot of hair in a cycling studio. And we were just trying to get these bikes, looking really good for this event. And I remember looking over at Rachel, and I had been ruminating in this for a while and I didn't really know, but we'd been working together. I feel like I was sort of like Rachel's patient zero. Like she was sort of life coaching me because I was in my younger 20s at this point, running a business and really at a very low point, I think, when I hired Rachel. And we were having these really cool conversations about wellness and nutrition and fitness and how it was so unique to the individual, but a lot of people were just sort of prescribing this blanket program. And we really wanted to focus on the nuances of how, like, for example, in Whole30, when I eat eggs, it's amazing.
Yeah.
When Rachel does, it's not great. And so we were already having these conversations, and I just looked over at Rachel and I was like, hey, you want to start a blog or something? As I'm like, dirty, just looking at me, like, she's like, sure. I'm like, okay, I don't really know what that looks like, but cool, let's meet about it later. And that was sort of the start. And we were used to already creating stuff together, working at the studio and creating programming and doing things together. So I think that was also just like a natural foundation that helped us just jump in and go for it.
I love it. I love it. I'm also I'm a life coach. I don't practice, but I'm also a personal trainer, a dietitian. I've competed in many bodybuilding competitions. So I'm all about the fitness and health and fitness. And, it is all very individual, so like for what's good works for me is not going to work for someone else. My goals are completely different. Like the cycling. I mean, I did 3 triathlons. I don't know if I have no interest in doing anything like that ever again, or a marathon. I talked to a woman that's done 40 marathons. Like yesterday, I was like, I have zero interest in doing anything like that. But good for you, But I think that's awesome that you guys connected like that. So can you tell us a little bit more about your podcast?
Yeah, I can jump in. I I would say honestly, a majority of my life has been wrestling with like, what does it mean? Like we throw around these things of like, just be yourself. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, what the fuck does that actually mean? And I'm super passionate about it. So I think for a lot of my life, I have been trying to figure that out. And being sick as a teen and seeing that unfolding, it was atrocious, like the whole experience. And I'm like wrestling even with that of like, okay, who am I now? That like I've like wrestled with death kind of, but I was heroized, but I don't feel like a hero. How do I come back into I don't even want to think about that. Like there's so much stuff. And I followed a really traditional path until I didn't. And that's like right when I met Jenell. So like we're at this studio. I wanted a community where I could actually feel like I could start to explore some of these things.
Sure.
The brand I had just been at was all about empowering young girls to be whatever they wanted to be. And I would look in the mirror and be like, I don't know who I am actually.
Oh, wow.
And if you saw me from the outside, I had a mohawk. I'm like charismatic.
Sure.
People are like, no way, like Bellotti, you're so like, you
Yeah.
know what's
Edgy.
up. And
Yeah.
it was not, no, I was like, I created this really awesome persona
Sure.
and I like her, but like actually who is me? Um, and I think to Janelle's earlier point, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth so you can jump in, but she was at like a pivotal point in her journey too of being like depleted. So I was kind of in this place of like, I'm pulling myself out. I don't really know what's going to go, but I've got this like open, like anything's possible. And then it felt like the world was like closing in on her. And we kind of met right at that point of like, who am I as the world is closing in on me? And me, who am I as like
Right.
literally anything's possible? And it was like this really cool mash of like, who are we in each of those spaces? And we just started pulling people in and being like, how did you do that? Why did you do that? Who do you think you are? Why do you think you can say that about yourself? Like we
Yeah.
were just like, and people wanted to keep talking. And so what started as a blog, which was fun for a little while, we realized was very hard to capture the beauty of the conversations we were having and the nuances and like the burps and the weirdnesses. And
Yeah.
Janelle was like, let's make it a podcast. And I was just like, oh my God, like everybody. And then I was like, fine. I'm like, fine, we'll do 12 episodes. I want an out. And then I loved it and I didn't want an out anymore.
And so wait, how long ago was that? 5 years ago? You started
Yeah.
podcast 5 years
Started,
ago?
yeah, the podcast, this is our 4th year podcasting, and then the business and the
Wow.
concept was about 5.
That's very cool. So, when you guys have, I'm sorry, I have not listened to a lot of your episodes. Do you guys have guests on then, or is it just the two of you talking all the time?
Yeah, so mostly guest stories. We really say it's these unsugar-coated conversations of everyday people fearlessly living and finding their true north. And that was a huge part for us is, yes, from like my marketing hat, it's like, how do you grow a podcast? You get really popular people to come on a podcast and, people then meet you. But really what we were finding, and Milwaukee is sort of like this underdog city. I think that's one of the things that both Rachel and I really love about it. And I believe you're in Chicago, but it's sort of like this, like the little sister, like the stepchild to Chicago that no one talks about. And that's like one of the reasons why Milwaukee's like, I have such a place in my heart for Milwaukee. And I think I've really carried that into other aspects of our life. And when it comes to the podcast, we really wanted to find the people that are these true gems of communities that aren't necessarily stepping forward and getting their story out there. So like my favorite is when someone comes on the podcast and they're like, I have nothing to say. And I'm like, oh, yes, you do. Like that's like the people that I get so excited about because I mean, everyone has a story and everyone has these amazing sides and aspects to themselves. And so we really wanted to be able to highlight those people. And yes, like we do have people sometimes that have bigger followings or other podcasts, but the initial idea was really rooted in that. And I know moving forward, we want to continue to really be able to elevate those people and their stories.
Hey guys, this is Deanna with Label Free Podcast. I've got something special for you. Roses are red, violets are blue. We love shaved balls. How about you? Here is my gift to you. Valentine's Day is coming and we know just the gift to give to that special someone for any and all special occasion. This Valentine's Day, it's time to give a gift that 4 million men worldwide trust from Manscaped. Use my exclusive discount and code LABELFREE20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. And let me just tell you, I love their new cologne. It is so sexy. When my man wears it, I am just floored. So this Valentine's Day, he's going to be wearing this and I'm going to be all over him. So I highly recommend use my code LABELFREE20 for 20% off and free shipping. Happy Valentine's Day. So when you find someone that doesn't have a lot to say, they think they don't have a lot to say, how do you pull that out of them?
I mean, I'll toot my own horn that I tend to be a person who literally, if you sit with me for like 5 minutes, people just tell me shit. And then I'm like, do you realize that you're telling me this? And so I don't know what it is about me, but I do feel like I have that. Beyond that, though, the biggest question we usually ask is, what are you wrestling with when it comes to being true to yourself? When it comes to being you, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so I think at the surface, like I said, there's so many cliched conversations out there of like, just follow your heart, just like be you, be true to yourself. And we can all just nod away, but like, what does that actually mean? And so if you pause, take a beat, take a breath, something usually comes up. There is a facet that is coming up for somebody. Um, and I don't know, I personally was like, I don't know how this conversation is going to last more than 2 seasons. But every single season, there's just like, there's so many aspects and ways and avenues. Like we had someone on that we talked to who loves plants. And so we were talking like the parallels between plants and being your authentic self was like an intersection I never thought we would explore. And it
Yeah,
was beautiful.
I bet.
So it really runs the gamut.
So just out of curiosity, when you ask somebody like what it means, and is there any common denominators that you find?
Yes.
Oh, please share.
Yeah, that has been, I think, one of the coolest things about the podcast is these stories are all very, very, very different,
Yeah.
but they all have the similarities that you're talking about. It's like the emotion behind it. There are stories like, for example, in season 2, we talked to someone who was transitioning like their gender, and something that on the surface again you'd be like, I don't know what that experience is like,
Sure.
but their story and the things that they were going through and maybe like feeling like they weren't able to be their full self, like those threads and those ideas, it's like, oh, I know exactly what that feels like.
For sure.
And so that has been really cool in the stories. I would say one that comes to mind immediately is just how not linear all of our stories are. I think a lot of times we read the books and we watch the movies and we know the pattern, right? That the character arc, and then here's the climax where everything goes wrong, but then it's all going to come back together. And our lives obviously don't really work that way. And
Definitely not.
so that has been a huge one, just accepting that you're going to take a bunch of steps forward sometimes, and you might take another 10 back, and then you might take 2 steps forward, or your path is going to look different than someone else's, even though someone else might, their career might just be going up and they're making more money. That might not be your path. Like you might actually start from the beginning and then zoom up over here. So non-linear has definitely been a huge one. What about for you, Rachel?
Yeah, what came up for me was we hear a lot of how isolating it can feel and how lonely it can feel. And so it's actually a pivot that we've made last year as we were like, we got to make this more than just a conversation that somebody's listening to on their own.
Yeah.
How do we actually create a community around this so that people can explore this and feel like there's other people who are exploring with them? And in that, it's like there is kind of like a sadness to saying loneliness, but I don't know. I feel like the more you recognize that other people feel it too, it takes away, like, I'll say, the drama of it, or it
Yeah.
takes away the shame of it. And so you can kind of experience the emotion of loneliness and recognize, like, oh, this isn't unique to me. Like, it is unique right now for me, but it isn't uniquely shameful for me to be experiencing this loneliness. It's really normal when people are exploring who they are and just trying to navigate being human, to feel a sense of loneliness as we understand, how we're different and then how we're the same. It is kind of like, even the name of your podcast, I was thinking about this morning, label free. Like, we've had conversations around just like identity, and I have had my own journey with like, don't put me in a box, don't label me, to recognizing also that those labels are really important. They help me know, oh, sorry, they help me know who I am and where I come from. Um and it allows me to have a space to explore kind of default roles that I've played, or default, that have either been put on me or that I put out into the world. And so you can kind of play with my relationship to those, how they serve me, how they don't, so that I can. It's almost like learning rules of art so that you can break the rules of
Yeah.
art. It's like you got to learn them.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you don't have to learn them, but
I think it's important to learn them.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I would say like that loneliness and then the community piece seems to be seems to be important.
I love it. I love it. So do you guys have like a mission that you're with your podcast? I know you said you only were thinking it was going to go 2 seasons, but I mean, I think that obviously what you're doing is working and people are interested and you're talking to people that want to share their stories. And do you have a mission like that you are set out to do with it?
I can go. Yeah. So the mission is fearlessly finding and living your true north. And what that means to us is like we're always going to be works in progress. And so this space is fellow travelers who are in it, and you can kind of dip in and out as you want to. It's a conversation first and foremost. It's work in progress. It's celebrating the everyday. I think we say celebrating the everyday human heroes. So yeah, it's really like almost if you took your whole life and then you like just randomly closed your eyes and like pointed,
Yeah,
like
I love
like that's our mission, is like celebrating that random point that you
it.
thought was nothing and actually could be everything. So
I love it. I love it. And you guys offer workshops I saw on your website. Can you talk about that really quick?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing monthly workshops, and every month has a different theme on a different facet of authenticity. So, our last one was on consistency. Our next one is going to be on roadblocks. And we just explore these different topics. And the workshops are a little bit more facilitated. So, we'll do exercises and get people thinking. We have a worksheet that we go through during it. But then we also offer what we call the collective, which is our free monthly community gathering. And that is a space we say we lightly facilitate, but really we're fellow travelers. And it's just an opportunity for people to jump on a Zoom call and have a conversation around a topic and get real, like hear yourself say things. And
Yeah.
it was really cool. Actually, in our last one, we just did it 2 days ago. And we were talking about consistency, and a lot of people just had things that they were kind of feeling like uncomfortable about or embarrassed or maybe shameful of. And it's just like, if you're comfortable, say it out loud, like announce it to these other people in this safe space and like hear yourself say it. And then you can choose what you want to do with it after that. And so they both pair together. Like you can do the workshop, you're going to get more facilitation. A lot of times it'll get you thinking, and then the collective will also get you thinking. But it's an opportunity really just to like be in a group of people that are curious about authenticity and getting to know themselves and like want to show up into a vulnerable space, and build those connections. So it's been really, really cool for us that we do that first Thursday and then third Thursday of every month.
You
and
guys are
I just
super dynamic. Sorry, I just had to say that. I love it. Oh my gosh, you're doing such great work.
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say I want to shout out our guests and our people who come to our communities too, because I've been to a lot of facilitated things and workshops, and I tend to find that people are like coming to have the answer, and like I hear the same things over and over again, and it's just a repeat of what I've heard out in the world, and it's kind of like it's great and like that can be inspiring, but the people who play with us are so raw and real and just like, I know you have this question for me, but I don't. So not. I don't have an answer. I've never known what the answer is to this.
Yeah,
It makes me uncomfortable, and like I'm like, holy shit, thank you.
yeah,
And then without fail, majority of the other people in there are like, me too, same, same, same. And then everybody's like, okay, cool. What do we do with that? And it's
yeah.
like, oh, everybody just like exhales because it's not about having the right answer. It's about being real.
Oh,
So I just want to shout them out.
that is beautiful. Where can you drop your links? When are you like? Where can people find you? Like, when are these workshops and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so our website is the truenorthcollective.org. We're on Instagram at the True North Collective underscore. My personal Instagram is Jenell Reese. Rachel's is Rachel.Bellotti. I think I know this by now. And then really Instagram is where we're most active. We have our link tree up there and it'll have all the links for the workshops. But they do happen the first Thursday of every month. And then the third Thursday of every month is when the collective happens. But we're super active on there. We like invite anyone to come play. Again, the collective's free too. So if you're like kind of just want to dip your toes in the water and don't want to, necessarily put a monetary commitment out there, it's a great place just to start to meet people and get to know us a little bit better. And then our podcast is really anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all of the above.
I will be putting all the links in the description of the episode.
Yes.
Before we wrap things up, I know it's you ladies are extremely busy and very just super cool and just I'm gonna call you like a power couple, kind of. You guys are like a power couple, like total boss babes. I love it. Can you any last words of wisdom or advice you could leave for my audience?
I'll share that like the best thing that keeps me going is just keep showing up. Even when it feels like I don't know what if you did know, what would putting your foot even like a millimeter in front, like a millimeter of a step, what would that be? What would the 1 minute version of doing something be? Just say yes, show up to the thing. And then you can adjust if you need to.
I love it.
Yeah, I would say trust yourself. I'm actually wearing a fellow podcaster. I'll give her a shout out, Splash to Bash. It says change your everyday, change your life. And I love her merch for that because I feel like for me, it's just like trusting myself and making the small decisions every single day that are actually in alignment with me, that have slowly started to build, and like it is actually changing my life. So even if it's like saying where you want to go to dinner when there's 5 other people that want something different, but like really trusting your gut and trusting what your intuition is telling you, and showing up for yourself in that way.
Boom! Beautiful, ladies. You guys are awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna definitely I'll let you know when this is going live very soon. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Kumpel with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, follow, share, comment, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.